Hello everybody, Murphy here with Black Beanie Gaming, the gaming arm of the Murphy Media blog. Now, in the last few days, Bethesda's been on the hot seat, and it's been pretty difficult for a developer that's seen such universal acclaim for the past, 12 years? I think it's been 12 years since Oblivion came out and really put them on the map. I mean, you can argue that Morrowind was the one that did it, but I think Oblivion is the title that made them so widely accessible, especially in regards to the fact that it was a premier title on the Xbox 360. It was a huge deal for Microsoft, and obviously a big deal for Bethesda as well. And I think one of the things I just want to go through here is, in a certain sense, how much Bethesda not necessarily has fallen from grace, but just how universal this backlash is. The fact that it is so newsworthy. This isn't some hiccup on the course to success. You know, this isn't a speed bump on the road they've been currently traveling on. This you could argue, just based on the controversies that they've suffered in the past, and they have suffered a handful. They genuinely have. You could argue that this started with that stupid horse armor back in the Oblivion days, but exacerbated by the countless Skyrim reiterations. You're talking about shady behavior that extends back as far as them denying Obsidian Entertainment for... They denied them bonuses based off a Metacritic score, which is an awful business practice that they've done. Something that's ironic in light of the fact that Fallout 76 has received, I think across the board, less than 60 on Metacritic, which is easily the lowest title that they've ever directly produced. And you can argue that Metacritic is ruining gaming all you want, but it's undeniable at this point that even mainstream media outlets, which have been at odds with YouTube content creators for a while now, especially lately in light of the spat regarding Battlefield 5 and inclusivity in games and all of that, which is an argument that they've been having with one another, YouTube influencers versus quote mainstream media outlets. I hesitate to use that term because they play games too, guys. But even mainstream media outlets are having a field day commenting on this. You got an article from Forbes here. Bethesda gave influencer nice Fallout 76 canvas bags. It's the bag controversy is still going on. It's been several days. It's December 3rd right now, as this thing mentions right here, this headline, Fallout 76, talking about December 4th update. We're on the eve of their first major update regarding the state of the game. There was an update right after launch talking about fixing myriad issues regarding stability, frame rate, all sorts of stuff like that. There's a Digital Foundry video that shows that it barely helped at all. In certain scenarios, like the game struggles to hit a smooth 30 frames per second across the board. But this next update is supposed to really unlock the game for PC players and make it more stable, make it a more stable experience for people on consoles. And I think what I want to talk about amid all this backlash, you know, the mainstream media, and again, I hate using that, but, you know, quote, mainstream media, the popular outlets, I mean, Forbes, GameSpot, you've got Screen Rants talking about it, IGN, all these different places are talking about this. It's the question that, you know, I keep asking myself is all of this backlash warranted? Objectively, regarding the game, I think that the public ire, the newfound distrust of this development studio, I think that it's absolutely a good thing that we strive to hold them accountable. We, meaning all gamers of all walks of life who've purchased this game or have had to review this game and have disliked it. Even people who do like the game as it stands, people who are having fun with the game, people who are enjoying walking around, finding things that are entranced by the gameplay loop, Because honestly, it does seem fun. The gameplay loop isn't much different than... It's essentially a looter shooter, more or less. Not quite as hardcore as Destiny is with all of those MMO light, all that MMO light window dressing. But as far as Fallout is concerned, this is a departure from what it used to be. But the game in and of itself, regardless of how much you try to argue that they were innovating, the game itself was objectively buggy, objectively crashy. It did not perform up to spec. And you can use that to argue false advertising or argue, you know, like incentivizing players towards microtransactions. You can argue a whole number of things and speculate a whole number of things based off the state of the game at launch. A lot of that speculation is just that, speculation. And what drives, at least as far as I've seen, a lot of this backlash, you get the YouTube backlash, you get, you know, YouTube, quote, influencers talking about how much they hate this game and how scummy Bethesda is. And I think, honestly, we are so used to talking about big studios and big publishers like EA, DICE, Activision, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, all of these companies that have eroded the public trust of the video game industry, because the video game industry is self-regulating as of right now in regards to what content is on that disc. In America, especially, you know, you've got the ESRB, and that's just about it, monitoring the content, and that's propped up by the game industry itself. And you've got these big studios, these big publishers have so far eroded the public trust in the product that is a video game, especially an online service-based video game, that when a studio like Bethesda, a developer, a publisher like Bethesda, screws up like this, does something that even remotely resembles what those other studios do, that it's instantly, they're going to come to regret it. And I'm not talking about whether or not they should regret some of these decisions, or they should be focused on like getting this to be a more stable, more playable, better product, more bang for the buck, so to speak. Because that argument is absolutely true. What they deliver on launch day should be a solid, playable, fun product. It should be in the absolute best state that they can make it, and it wasn't. But that's not necessarily up for debate. What's up for debate, at least as far as I'm concerned, is how distrustful and how angry we are as a community at this studio. And I feel like we have every right to be critical. Absolutely. We should be irritated. I'm not trying to invalidate anybody's feelings about this game, whether you love it or hate it. But what's kind of caught my eye is even some of these more moderate, some of these more tempered YouTubers and critics, I guess, for lack of a better word, are throwing around some insulting language at Bethesda, saying that some of their decisions were stupid, or asinine, or ass backwards, or dumb. It's this belittling kind of language that they're using, where they're talking about how obvious it is that a studio shouldn't do the things that Bethesda has done following the launch of this game. It's important to remember how quickly this backlash happened. It's how the backlash, at least a few days ago, I'm not so sure now, but for a while there, it's like it was at a fever pitch. You either were aggressively defending this game or aggressively hating on this game. And I just don't think, personally, my personal belief, I just don't think that Bethesda is worth this anger, this backlash, this vitriolic response, you know, insulting their intelligence as a group of people working on a product for us, the consumer. And I worry that we are going to start equating smaller, and relatively smaller, publishers and developers like Bethesda. They are very much a AAA studio. They are very much a big multi-million-dollar company creating products and pushing products that reach millions, sell millions, and make millions, if not billions, looking at Skyrim and Fallout 4 there. So they absolutely should be held to a high standard as far as the quality of their product is concerned. But Bethesda has so far operated in such a way that sets them apart, and I'm talking about over the years, have so far operated in such a way that sets them apart from those big studios. Where you look at EA and Activision especially, where every yearly release of every major franchise that they have removes further content and promotes monetization further. Every annual release, the multiple franchises that release annually or biannually promote these microtransactions and these shady, like, non-communicating, like this unbelievable, like, corporate speech that they use, this insulting to your intelligence, condescending nature that they have when they address their communities following any kind of public backlash. You can look at Battlefield 5 right now, and whether or not you agree that DICE and EA are doing something wrong with how much they're pushing the diversity element of their game, there are people who are concerned that the game itself just isn't good. And rather than address the lack of content as compared to Battlefield 1, they are playing they're patting themselves on the back, much as Disney did after The Last Jedi, about how inclusive they are, about how good they're doing. They're like, look what we can do. They're trying to win a PR battle at this point, and they're highlighting good things that they've done that don't necessarily affect the quality of the game. Inclusivity, in my mind, is inherently a good thing. I don't buy into the whole, oh, your games need to be so strikingly historically accurate that every single soldier you play as in the game needs to be a photorealistic representation of a soldier that existed back in World War II. I don't buy into that. It's nice when they do it, but there comes a point where it's like, it's a video game, they're trying to appeal to a wider audience, they absolutely should, but to use that to kind of deflect the anger that people have about your game, rather than address the anger, you mock the anger. That's an entirely different story, and probably better suited for a different video. So I won't get into that too much here. But I wonder if Bethesda deserves this hate. And I'm going to call it that. I'm going to call it hate. Because it seems very much like people are angry about this game. Undoubtedly. The proof is there. You can see it all over the place online. People are just fed up with something that Bethesda has only just recently taken to doing. There's been a trail of breadcrumbs, seemingly, that they've followed. Especially with Fallout 4, the release of their, what was it called? The Creation Club, that Pete Hines kind of famously said they're miniature bits of DLC, despite the fact that they didn't create these things. These are paid mods, and they refuse to call them pay mods, but that's pretty much exactly what they are. And that's following their incessant monetization with Fallout Shelter, which is a free game, so think of that what you will. An argument is to be made that this has been kind of a slippery slope for them, testing the waters, so to speak, getting ready for an enhanced, shared world, heavily monetized game. And that's pretty much what Fallout 76 is. But following this backlash, and the most direct comparison I think this game and this launch and this public outcry has is with Destiny 2. And I've said this in the past, where I think that Bethesda is doing a better job than Bungie was. Bungie went excommunicado for a long while. Granted, with Destiny 2, it wasn't until after the raid went live that people realized that the game was so empty. And at the beginning of the beginning of all the press for Destiny 2, people were concerned about the fact that your progress in Destiny 1 didn't carry over. Your character did, sort of, but all of your goodies, pretty much all of your experience, a whole lot of things didn't carry over. And that's a great criticism. I mean, you're talking about a game that plays itself up in many ways to be more than the looter shooter that it is, an MMO light that doesn't operate in such a way that other popular, immensely successful MMOs operate. You look at World of Warcraft. Every time a new DLC for that game comes out, first off, it takes years, in most cases, for DLC for that game to come out, and it adds to the game rather than detracts from the game. And you're seeing a lot of the same criticisms about Fallout 76. And the same level, if not more, backlash to the state of the game. People aren't happy. They're not. And, you know, this is beating that dead horse again here, but I wonder if Bethesda's earned this level of backlash. The name calling, the equating it, the studio, to EA or DICE or any of these other publishers and developers that have a long proven track record of not giving a shit about their communities and their players, or for that fact the quality of their game. So long as they can monetize the hell out of it, they don't care. They've got a built-in player base that returns yearly regardless, and they will milk that cash cow until it stops providing milk. They'll put it out to pasture, and then they'll go find another one. Bethesda's sin here, as far as I can see, is mimicking in many forms, employing the same business and development practices that those studios have, and I would argue in the hopes to raise revenue after a year where arguably they didn't get as much as in years past, especially following 2017 where they didn't make as much money as, you know, one would hope with The Evil Within 2 and Wolfenstein 2. And you've got Doom 2 is slated for next year. You've got Rage 2 slated for next year, I think. So they had like at least 24 months, 18 to 24 months gap where they didn't have a major release. So bring in Fallout 76. And I'm not surprised they pushed it out, but Bethesda's track record of buggy, glitchy disasters has finally come to bite them in the ass hard. But I think, personally, that they as a studio will learn from this, respect our wishes as a community, and address our concerns more earnestly than any other developer of their size that has gone through backlash like this. EA's response to Battlefield 5 was to throw a party and criticize the minority of misogynistic asshats that exist in the YouTube community. And they're there. Absolutely they are there. But sales being down so far, like those misogynistic troglodytes don't amount to a 60% drop in physical sales in the UK. I don't believe that. Personally, I don't believe there are that many assholes that exist, but I could be very wrong. That could be ignorance on my part. I hope there aren't that many people who are like that would refuse to buy a game off of those standards alone, but I can't speak to that. What I can speak to is that personally I don't think that Bethesda is going, I don't think they wanted to let us down. I think they genuinely thought that people were excited about an experience like this because people have wanted a co-op Fallout experience for a while. Granted, they wanted one with a story. They wanted one like Fallout 4 where you could hop in with like one or two buddies and go progress through the main storyline. They wanted that MMO-light experience. I think if Fallout 76 had dropped and it was almost exactly like ESO, I don't think people would have been too upset about that. But for it to land in the state that it is, I think they're taken aback. In their shock and dismay, they have reacted violently online. Well, I shouldn't say violently. I don't think violently. I don't think anybody's threatened violence. I just think that certain people are getting red in the face, screaming into their microphones about this, or typing on a computer on message boards in some place. And I think that that knee-jerk reaction in the coming days, weeks, months will temper. It'll simmer down. I think that there will be a fairly consistent player base for Fallout 76, and I think that Bethesda will do everything in their power to earn that goodwill back from their community. A community that has served them obediently so well and provided for them so much success and critical acclaim, despite many of the flaws inherent in most of their games. A player base that still, up until this latest release, considered them to be a pioneer of Western RPGs, or video game experiences as a whole. We have every right to be worried that they're not up to the task. When they first announced Fallout 76, there were plenty of people that felt that twinge in their gut, that hesitation, that anxiety, where they were like, I don't know if they can pull this off. Bethesda doesn't necessarily have a proven track record when it comes to this sort of thing. ESO launched terribly, and I know Bethesda Game Studios didn't directly develop that, but they oversaw its release, and people weren't crazy about that when it first launched. But it's still got a steady player base, and people enjoy the hell out of it to this day. There's an audience there, and I think there's an audience for Fallout 76. And I think that audience is wider than the amount of people currently playing it. So honestly, I think the whole reason I'm sitting in front of the microphone right now is just to say that I think that we should continue to, if not put our faith in Bethesda, at least give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to call them asinine. I don't want to call them a bunch of tricksters, hucksters, you know, snake oil salesmen. That's not what they are. That's not what they've been. They don't have a track record of stable releases, but they don't have a track record of actively screwing consumers over either. You have a few outliers as examples there, Creation Club chief among them. That was sketchy. But I view that less as an omen of the bad times to come and more of an oversight on behalf of Bethesda's management. As I said in the previous video, I think this is a negligence problem. I think they were looking at numbers. They were growing exponentially. I think that they saw they had dollar signs in their eyes, and they thought that what they were doing, people were enjoying. You can chalk that up to the fundamental disconnect between developers and publishers and their audience, because if they see cash flowing in, then they can only assume that what they're doing is good. Sometimes it takes vocal backlash, the likes of which they're seeing right now, to wake a developer up. But what I don't think is that we write off this studio, write off the incredibly talented people working there, the so far reliable duo that is Pete Hines and Todd Howard as the public figureheads of Bethesda. I don't think it's time yet, based off of everything that I've seen, the decade or so that I've been paying attention to everything Bethesda. I don't think it's time to write them off yet. I stand by what I said before, which is that if anyone can course correct, if anybody can right this ship, get it sailing again, get Fallout 76 in a playable state, get their priorities back on the player and less on exorbitant microtransactions, I think that they can do it. I believe that they can do it. I know they have the capacity to do it. What we should be worried about isn't whether or not we think that Bethesda has the capacity to do the right thing, but whether or not they will do it, whether or not they will take our criticisms to heart and do something productive with it in the meantime. Because this backlash so far has been so loud, it's drowned out anything they could say or do in the meantime to possibly atone for what they've done, which is a shoddy product and a lackluster release and honestly incredibly poor communication right out of the gate. But they've come out, they've addressed this stuff more or less. They haven't apologized yet. You know, you get the whole, oh, we understand and respect, like, corporate schlock that they're throwing at us right now, but they've already released a roadmap of upcoming bug fixes, upcoming patch notes. They're taking to the web forums. But what this does more than anything is show how they need to communicate going forward. If they do that, and I believe they can, then I think we should embrace that. Our collective voices, however loud and obnoxious they may be at times, our collective voices have the potential to enact great change in the industries we see fit to direct it. And I think that as long as we're responsible, as long as we're not writing them off, criticizing them, giving them more ammunition to ignore us, or outright disregard the criticisms that we have for their products, like EA, I think that if we show a little good faith, trust them, not so much, maybe not so much trust them, but at least extend the hand, say, look, you guys screwed up, just own up to it. If you own up to it and try your damnedest to fix this thing, it's going to take a while, it's going to cost you a lot of money. You might not take a tremendous loss, but you're definitely not going to earn as much money off of this stuff as you thought you would. But if they can get their shit together, and if we can support them in any fashion, whether it be good word of mouth or actually buying the game once it's good, if we can do that, I think it'll be worth it. Because I just don't like the idea that we're writing this off and it's, oh, well, this is fucked, so let's wait 3 years until Starfield comes out or whenever, and let's see if they do it again. No, let's just keep our ear to the ground. Let's not insult Bethesda. Let's not treat them in a way that we think they're treating us, because I don't think that they are acting so poorly toward us. I think that they just don't know what to say. The game here just crashed. Yeah. God, Fallout 4. I'm sitting here talking up Bethesda so much, and a game that came out 3 years ago just crashed on me. What can you do? Seriously, what can you do about that? That's just funny. Maybe what I'm saying is just a load of horse shit. Oh man. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am. Maybe they've lost touch. Maybe they don't know what the heck they're doing anymore. Maybe they aren't worth the time of day. Maybe we should boycott them until they get their shit together, but I think that the result of all this backlash, so long as we keep ourselves under control, so long as we are still willing to give them the benefit of the doubt without appearing fickle or as fair weather fans, because if you love this studio, you love this studio through thick and thin. You know, you gotta support them when they fuck up. You gotta look them in the face, you gotta show them how disappointed you are, but you don't just beat them while they're down. You know, you gotta look them in the eye and be like, you're better than this. You know you're better than this. No more cutting corners. It's time to, you got all this potential, all of this talent. You gotta start pushing some boundaries. I think if a major course correction looks like a change in design philosophy, from my perspective at least, how they go about making games in the future especially. And as far as Fallout 76 is concerned, I think if they decrease the prices of those godforsaken microtransactions, where a single ball cap for your player is like $5 real-world dollars, which is just obscene. I think if they change their priorities, they focus on just providing a narrative and gameplay experience, the likes of which players haven't seen before, or haven't experienced in such a way before, that's stable at launch, that it's just fun to play, and we are able to play consistently. I think they do something along those lines. I think that they can earn back a significant amount of that trust. Because this is a wake-up call for Bethesda. It absolutely is. But I don't think that they are a lesser studio for having done what they've done. I just think that they've got to get their heads on straight. And I imagine that a lot of the talent that created some of those amazing, incredible, unforgettable, you know, worth buying over and over and over again in all of its various iterations, experiences, I think that they're definitely capable of doing that again. And I think that if we wait it out, I think that they will show us that they are willing to provide those experiences again, if it means winning us back. If it means you know, earning back our trust and our dollars. As far as Fallout 76 is concerned, I don't think I'll talk about it anymore. But I'm eager to see what Bethesda does, how they address this stuff going forward. They've said they'll communicate better, and I trust them to do so considering the amount of time it's taken them to do this. I think that what we can look forward to in the future, especially in the next couple of days, I think that we ourselves can look forward to better communication. We may even see an apology in the future from Bethesda. I think that we'll get something from either Pete Hines or Todd Howard. I hope so much, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll own up to that. But I think that we will see an apology. I think that Fallout 76 will get better. It won't atone for the state that it launched in, and it won't atone for all of these controversies. It won't atone for the fact that they shipped these garbage nylon bags instead of a canvas bag, or gave influencers these nice duffel bags or backpacks, whatever they are, for free. It won't atone for the marketing. It won't atone for the mismanagement. It won't atone for any of that. But what it can do is get their community in a position, again, to at least be willing to trust them and buy future products. We can only hope they learn their lesson. Doesn't mean we shouldn't love them anymore. Doesn't mean we should call them idiots, that we should call them stupid or blind or any of these other things. Or mischievous or Machiavellian, however you want to refer to the studio in a negative light. I just don't think we should do that. I think they can and will do better. And I think that we're capable of better. And I think that we should embody, at least to some degree, the principles of good faith that we demand from our game developers and publishers. But that's just about it for this video. If you like this type of content, just let me know by liking the video or sharing the video, commenting down below what you think, what I should do next. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, Black Beanie Gaming. Check it out on Twitter at black_beanie. Check out my blog, www.themurphymediablog.com. And yeah, that's all I got for you today. Fallout 4 survival video will be up very soon. Just working on trying to manage the unbelievable amount of diseases that you can catch in that game from existing, and the crashes and stuff and all that nonsense in a 3-year-old game. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.